South Africans are actually very conservative about the seafoods that they eat. Most South Africans, when they think of seafood, they just think of fish or rock lobsters or maybe abalone. But actually in many other parts of the world, all sorts of other types of seafood are eaten, including many different types of seaweeds. So you might have tasted a little bit of seaweed on your sushi, but probably if I presented you with a plate full of kelp, then you wouldn't be that excited about it. But actually, kelp is very widely eaten. So what we're going to do today, we're going to meet with Roushanna Gray, who's an expert on felt foods, foods from the wild, and she's going to tell us a bit about edible seaweeds in South Africa. So Roushanna, how did you get into doing felt foods?
So I suppose it all started when I moved out to this area about 17 years ago, and I'm a bit of a curious foodie, and I wanted to find out what this place and space tasted like. So I started off with the land plants, got into edible flowers and the wild mushrooms. But it was only when a Japanese cyclist who was visiting here, and he was eating these seaweeds from the intertidal zone as a supplement, a treat. Yeah. He actually came down here with me and he looked out at this edible landscape and he said, "Why is nobody eating these sea vegetables?" It was so highly prized from where he was from. And so that really got me thinking.
So you've tried quite a few different ones, have you?
Some brilliant recipes and some terrible flops.
Okay.
A common question is, what do seaweeds taste like? And it's might as well be asking, what do vegetables taste like? They each have their own unique flavor profile and texture. I think texture plays quite a big role in seaweeds. The more you learn about the seaweeds and these rock pools, the easier it is to know how best to be sustainable when you're harvesting. There's such a delicate ecosystem happening here in these little rock pools. So the most sustainable or regenerative way of harvesting seaweeds is with a little pair of scissors or a knife. If you uproot a seaweed, any seaweed, then it's gone. It's just like uprooting a plant. So if you just give it a little trim with your scissors, and the more you leave behind, the easier it is for the plant to regenerate, and in that way it's sustainable. So I think the forager's golden rule is only take what you need and use everything you take.
Okay, so you can come back to the same plant again a few weeks later and harvest it again. No, that's great.
I always say to everybody, you've got to think animal and not human, and you've got to graze and not pillage.
Yes, that's a good principle.
And so just
nibble.
Nibble and rock hop as you go.
Yeah.
A lot of wild foods are so dense in nutrients and vitamins and minerals. They're kind of like a superfood, so you don't need a lot. It's quite difficult for somebody who hasn't really eaten seaweed before to imagine that it could be a food. The first encounter that we have with seaweed is when it's been washed up on the shore, and it's probably decomposing and a little bit smelly. So it's difficult to imagine it as a food, but if you step a little bit deeper and come out into this magical slice of intertidal zone, the gardens are full of sea vegetables.
So you always collect live, fresh seaweed?
Yes, so it has to be attached. So kind of think of any seaweed that's attached as your food or your vegetables, and anything that's floating around or washed on shore as the compost.
Right, okay. That's the fertilizer for the little beach hoppers. That's their food, their portion.
Exactly.
And when's the best time to come?
The best time is on a spring tide, when it's full moon or new moon, and we get this beautiful low tide to explore. The other thing is a clean ocean. It's very important.
Away from the city.
Away from the city, away from any pollutants, away from any sewage pipes.
So, Roushanna, do you need any other permission to do this?
Yes, you'll need a mollusk permit at your nearest post office. Costs 96 Rand, and you tick box number 9, and it lasts up to a year,
Wow,
which is amazing.
That's really good value.
Yeah.
So do you call them seaweeds? it's a bit of a negative term.
I know. I like to call them sea vegetables.
Okay,
because just with that one little switch in the word, it changes your perception.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a much better word, I think. Yeah. Okay, Roushanna, so what's on the menu today?
I think we're going to look at 3 different seaweed species that are choice edibles and also my favorite to work with.
Excellent, let's go do it.
Okay.
This is the nori, isn't it? This is the stuff that your sushi, your California rolls come wrapped up in.
Yeah, that's the same seaweed that's wrapped around your sushi. Wild Atlantic nori.
Okay. So what do you do with this?
So nori is very high in protein. If you taste it when it's like that, it's first of all, it's quite tough to digest.
Very rubbery.
Yeah. So the rule of thumb is if you can break it apart really easily with your fingers, then it's easy to digest. If not, you need to cook it a little bit. So the best way for the flavors to kind of sing out is to bake them in the oven and roast them. This makes the most amazing nori chips. Have you ever made kale chips?
No, I never have.
Good, because they're disgusting. So
This is much better.
This is much better. Rinse it well, and then you pop it on a tray, a greased tray, put it in the oven, 180 degrees for about 8 minutes, and when you can lift it up like a chip, it's ready. Easy.
So you don't coat it in anything?
No, nothing.
Just like that?
I mean, it offers about 35% protein, which is more than any land plant has to offer. So, you can see there it's stuck on its hold fast, and I'm just going to cut a little bit so the rest can regrow. And it looks like just a teeny tiny little bit, but this is super delicious, nutritious, packed full of all of those incredible nutrients.
Roushanna, this is the sea lettuce that we've got here, isn't it?
Beautiful. I like to call sea lettuce the gateway seaweed when you...
You mean the starter?
The starter, yeah, because it's so easy to identify.
Right.
And it just looks like a lettuce, and there's nothing else that really looks like it, you know, that you can confuse it with.
Okay.
And yeah, it's so versatile. You can eat it like lettuce.
You can just eat it raw like this?
You can eat it raw. You can put it as a pizza topping, and you can cook it in the same way as you would with spinach.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then have it as a side or a little bit of butter or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And unlike spinach, it doesn't wilt all the way down.
Oh, okay, that's nice. So is this look like this all the year round? I mean, when we're now in the middle of summer?
Yeah, so in springtime, a lot of these will regrow. And summertime, the garden is lush and full.
Okay, so this is the peak growing season that we're in now.
And then I really like to actually stay away in autumn and winter because everything's quite sparse here. I feel like a lot of wave bashing action happens, and all the soft seaweeds
There are
get
lots of
pulled up.
animals that are
Lots of
relying on
animals.
this resource as well.
So what are the main animals that would eat sea lettuce?
The snails, I guess, the oxystele, the little periwinkles, they would feed on it. But yeah, and there are lots of little tiny black gastropods that you often see on the leaves of the sea lettuce as well.
Yeah.
And actually you can see by looking at these plants that they're not heavily grazed. And I can see a little sea hare down here. He's probably having a little nosh of it as well, but there's plenty for him and for us.
We call these tooth crackers.
Oh, okay, yes, I can see why.
Yeah, and so if you come down here in wintertime and you would take one of these, they are very, very, they've got lots and lots of little holes, and the whole plant is covered,
grazed.
and yeah. So should we collect some of
this?
Yes,
let's grab some.
So
we'll trim some.
I like to give it a little bit of a wash like that to try and get rid of some of these little gastropods.
It looks very nice, doesn't it? It's one of the most attractive seaweeds, I think. And you really, when you look at it, you think, oh, this looks edible. Perhaps kelp not so much.
Lovely. We're going to make a ocean hummus with this. Yeah. So these, look at this, it's like a whole mat of them. This Wrack or Brassicophycus.
Brassicophycus, yeah.
It really sounds like a Harry Potter spell.
It's a big word, that, isn't it? Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one.
The one I bust out if I want to really impress anybody.
Brassicophycus, brassicaeformis.
Have you nibbled them raw? We like to call them sea pretzels.
Ah, okay. Well, this is much more digestible than others. It's much softer.
Yeah.
So you really feel that you can eat this just like that. It's actually
it's
very nice.
It makes a nice pickle as well.
Dip it into your sauce.
Yeah. Yum.
Actually, this is very good. So these kelp fronds are like moving conveyor belts of tissue. So the plant grows from the base of the fronds, and then the frond grows outwards and then just erodes away at the end. So this end of the frond is the oldest part of the frond, and then the base end is the youngest end, like centimeters per day. This is
How many centimeters a day?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but we have done experiments on this by using a sheep ear punch and punching holes in the kelp and then measuring how far those holes move from day to day. And it was, several centimeters a day, if I recall correctly.
Incredible. A moving conveyor belt of cells.
Of food. And then this is a young plant which hasn't developed its bulb yet, so it's just got one frond. You can actually see grazing marks here where a limpet or a snail has been feeding on it. So other guys like these as well.
They know what's good for them.
They know what's good. So show us how you harvest these, Roushanna.
So you could imagine that if you tried to eat something like this, it's very leathery and it would be an unpleasant eating experience. So kind of like choosing the best vegetable at the farmer's market. You want to go for the thin, lighter coloured ones. Okay. Yeah. And they're much more tender, exactly. Tender stem Ecklonia.
And I'm sure that we'll put that in the menu.
So I like to boil this up in a pot and eat it as pasta.
Okay,
as
great.
A pasta
so
substitute.
you slice it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah. And then you can also eat it as a vegetable as well. And so cutting them like this, it's not going to harm the plant.
No, they've got lots more.
It's not going to harm the sea vegetable. And then these are great.
But these will grow back very quickly.
These will grow back. So this is the most sustainable seaweed to be harvesting.
Absolutely, yeah. So that was a cool visit to the shops, eh?
Yeah.
No crowds, no queue at the till.
The best view. Oh, and it's free.
Yeah.